Welcome to today's transmission. Today we shall be talking of the PG certificate in copy editing and proofreading, course 1. The title of course 1 is Introduction to Editing, and I am Sunena Kumar, coordinator of the program. The PG certificate in copy editing and proofreading has the following 4 courses. The 4 courses are MBPI 001 and Introduction to Editing, which is what we shall be taking up in detail today. The next transmission we shall look at MBPI 002, which deals with language editing and manuscript preparation. The third one deals with conventional copy editing and proofreading, and the fourth one, MBPI 004, looks at electronic copy editing and proofreading. Now the first course has 3 blocks. The first block is an introduction to editing, which carries the same title as the course title, so don't be confused. The second block is called copy editing, and the third block is called the process and practice of copy editing. Here we are. Block 1, introduction to editing, block 2, copy editing, and block 3, process and practice of copy editing. Now before we go into the course details proper, let us pause to see why books or other published materials need editing. Here we shall look at some books which have different content and hence look different. These books have been deliberately designed to look different because of the nature of the content. The nature of the readers too differs from book to book. A good editor therefore must know whom he is targeting as his reader. This is a slide of a book of fiction which has been published in the 19th century. Since this is a book of fiction, it has an intriguing cover. It has the title of the book, it has the title of the author, and it is multicolored. A handwritten book was expensive to produce, time consuming and labor consuming, and therefore very few people had access to the books. Since this is a book for children, it only has a title called My Book of Birds and a single bird on the cover. Page 2 also has one bird with the name of the book of the bird, and page 3 again has just one bird with the name of the bird. So a book for children will have less text and more photographs. Now to revert to the course we shall be studying today, MBPI 001 and Introduction to Editing. Block 1 is again titled An Introduction to Editing, has 4 units or lessons. These are Unit 1, Types of Editors and Types of Editing. Unit 2 deals with proofreading techniques. Unit, as you know, is a lesson. Unit or lesson 3 deals with book and newspaper publishing, and Unit 4 deals with an introduction to editing, copy editing and proofreading. Now you must have already gone through your course materials where we have talked of what happens to a manuscript when it arrives at the desk of an editor. If it arrives at the desk of an editor in a form which is unreadable, we only call it manuscript because it is for convention's sake. Nowadays no author worth his name will submit a handwritten manuscript. What he will do is to submit a typescript. What will the editor do now? The editor will look at whether the book is appealing, whether the book is attractive, whether it conforms to the kind of books that he is interested in publishing, and so on. After this, an MOU is signed, a memorandum of understanding is signed, which goes into all the details of publishing, of royalty, of copyright, of how many copies will be produced, of who will do the editing, of who will pay for the costs, of what are the royalties that are given if the book is going to be available in various translations, and so on. This MOU is important to protect the interest of the publisher and of the author both. At this point enters the role of the editor. The editor edits books for a variety of reasons. First of all, the editor will see that it conforms to the publisher's style and the kind of books that the publisher is interested in publishing. A book may be very good, but it may not be published because the publisher does not publish books. For example, an academic publisher may not publish a book of fiction even if it is excellently written. Then the publisher will also see whether there is a demand for that kind of book. For example, if there is a book which is extremely academic in nature, granted that it is going to contribute to the mainstream information, but the publisher may not think that there are enough readers who are going to buy it, and therefore the publisher will not publish the book. What happens after the editorial team, which means the editor, the copy editor and the proofreader have looked at the book and worked at it. It then goes into production, which means it is printed and bound and the cover is designed, the layout and everything is done. At the same time as the production of the book is going on, the book is also being promoted. There might be advertisements, there might be blurbs, there might be interviews with the author and so on. So, and these are all done so as to promote the sale of the book. Eventually, after all, no matter how sincere a publisher is, he has to break even, he has to make a profit, and therefore the sales are a very important area. But for the sake of this program, we are not interested in the production, promotion, sales, the accounts record and the ISBN. Now, the ISBN is a special number that is given in India by the Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library. It is given free of cost, and it indicates, it is a 10-digit number. The first 2 digits indicate the country code, the next 4 deal with the publisher, and the next remaining digits deal with the details of the book, the last 2 digits being the check digit. So, any book that is published must have an ISBN number which immediately identifies it. Now, what does an editor do? An editor could be a commissioning editor, an editor could be a person who selects the books that are submitted for consideration and then he edits for content. Now, editors are of many types. There are various ways of categorizing editors as well. We can categorize editors by responsibility or designation, which is what is done in newspapers. There might be a chief editor, there might be a sub editor and so on, or there might be, and this pertains particularly to books, an editor who is categorized by the nature of the editing that he does. He can be a creative editor, he can be a substantive editor. A substantive editor will look at the content of the book, or he can be a copy editor. Now, what are the types of editing that is done on a manuscript that is submitted for publication? The first and foremost is the content editing. Now, remember, the best editor is the invisible editor. The editor does not edit the content. In a newspaper, he very well does, but in a book, he does not edit the content. He interacts with the author. If he does have to make changes in the content, then he takes the author into confidence and he requests the author to make the desired changes in the content. Then the kind of editing next that is done is editing for the presentation of content. Now, presentation of content means that the content is very well written, but it might be that the first paragraph needs to come last, the last chapter needs to come in between and so on. In which order the content is presented, at what length it is presented and in what form it is presented. A copy editor ensures consistency, which is to say there are certain names that are spelt in a variety of ways, each equally acceptable. So, for example, if there is a name like Verma, it might be spelt VERMA by the author in one place and VARMA by the author in another place. The copy editor will check this and he will get back to the author to ask which of the versions he actually wants to use and ensure that that version is followed right through. There are various other things that could be inconsistent. For example, in a very famous case, the heroine was described as having brown hair in the beginning of the book, and by the middle of the book the author was saying that she was black haired. Now, this kind of a thing is also an inconsistency which may slip the best of the editors who are editing for the content, who may be looking at the story, but who may not really be looking at issues of consistency. Then the copy editor also edits for appearance. The copy editor checks for grammar, again he checks for spelling. Spelling means, again like I said, a word may be spelt in a variety of ways, or there might be a foreign name. He will check with the author whether he wants to have the English version of the same name or whether he wants to carry through with the spelling as it is given. There are certain names, for example, which use special diacritical marks, names in French, names in German and so on. So, he will check back with the author whether he is going to be using the English version of it or whether he is using the original version, in which special diacritical marks have also to be checked out for. Then the copy editor will also check for style. What is style? Is the author being very formal right through, or is he being formal at one place and then becoming informal in another? A very important responsibility of the copy editor is to check for libel and copyright. Libel means if something has been said in the book which is intended to defame somebody or which is actually defamatory. Of course, the author will, when he signs the memorandum of understanding, he will say that any issues of copyright and libel are to be ascribed to him. but eventually it is the publisher who also is interested to see that nothing libellous or nothing that is plagiarized from another source and due acknowledgement of copyright has not been given is published under his name. Now what does a proofreader do? After a copy editor has checked all this, the proofreader checks matter that is received from the printer, marks errors, typos and queries unclear matter. So far we have been talking of unit 2, types of editors and types of editing. In unit 3 we have talked of proofreading techniques. Proofreading techniques means that there are special set of signs and symbols that a proofreader uses because they are universally accepted, universally understood, and when he finds any inconsistencies, typographical errors, spelling errors and so on, he indicates in the main body of the text where the error is, and using those special signs and symbols in the nearest margin he puts a mark to indicate what is the error and what is the corrected form of it. After the proofreading techniques have been discussed, in unit 4 we have gone on to book and newspaper publishing. Now what is the difference between book publishing and newspaper publishing? Newspapers have a short shelf life. They do not have time to keep going back to the author to check for permission to make changes, and they are rubbished as soon as the day is over and a new edition of the newspaper has come. A book has a longer shelf life. The author can afford to be, the editor can afford the time to keep checking back with the author, and it may go into a reprint. Every edition of the book will be the same, whereas every edition of the newspaper will be different. Now whether it is a newspaper or whether it is a book, copy editors and proofreaders are important for both of them. Therefore, if you are seeking to look for employment in either a newspaper or in a book publishing firm, you will do well to go through the details of the instructions we have given about copy editors and proofreaders. Copy editors check for repetitions, verbosity, paragraph breakup, tables, hyperboles and superlatives, grammar, idiom, spelling and style, punctuations, clarity and obvious errors. The 4 lessons in this block deal with types of copy editing, the responsibilities of copy editors, cross-checking references and reprints, and cross-checking editions, copyrights and libel. Copy editing can be done at 3 levels. It can be elementary copy editing, it can be medium copy editing, and it can be heavy copy editing. Elementary copy editing is to revert only error correction. Medium copy editing means checking for style and cross references. Heavy copy editing is done by an experienced editor. He need not necessarily be a copy editor, because as you know, in today's world with the innovations in technology and word processing tools, a lot of the responsibilities have got combined, and the same person may be doing copy editing at one point and content editing at another point. We have dealt with the responsibilities of copy editors. Now the first responsibility, as we have talked about already, is mechanical copy editing. You are going mechanically through it and checking to see that there are no surface flaws. Surface flaws are flaws that you can look at and pick out right away. Another responsibility of a copy editor is to correlate the various parts. Correlating again means something of what we were saying, that part 1 should relate to part 2 and so on. Paragraph 1 should be followed by paragraph 2. A copy editor is also responsible for language editing. Briefly, he will have to check the grammar and the style of the manuscript that has been submitted to him. When you receive a manuscript, is to see that it is complete, that there is a title page, there is a credits page, there is a preface, there is acknowledgements, all the chapters of the book are there. If the book has to have 12 tables, he has to see that the tables have been all submitted. If there are illustrations, he or she, let me clarify, when I use he, it means both he and she, have to check that all the illustrations are submitted by the author, all the tables are submitted by the author. It is not the responsibility of the copy editor to acquire any of this information, merely to get it from the author if he indicates that he wants it to be put in the book. Now the copy editor prepares a specimen page. The specimen page will have a lot of information. It will have information about the size of the letters, the font, the spacing, the margins left, right, top and bottom, where the page numbers are going to be, whether there is going to be a half title, whether the whole title of the book is going to be reflected, and so on. Then the copy editor has to also watch out for unusual diacritical marks. Copy editor has to ensure that these diacritical marks have been correctly made, and he will have to instruct the press as and when he submits the manuscript to the press about these diacritical marks. And of course, the copy editor cannot get away from tracking the progress of the manuscript. He has to keep in touch with the press. A copy editor does not do proofreading. He may do it because he has caught a mistake, but there are people who are proofreaders in conventional presses with today's technology, of course. Therefore, proofreading of the manuscript has to be done eventually anyhow. A copy editor does not do rewriting. He does not rewrite what is written. He has to point it out to the editor gets to the author, and if any rewriting has to be done, he can point out what the problem areas are, and the author, eventually the book is the author's book. The book will be known by the author who has written it, not by the publisher who has published it. In the next unit, which is called cross-checking, references and reprints. What are references? If an author, particularly in academic books, has used a lot of references, he has quoted from various sources, he has quoted from dictionaries, other people's works, manuscripts, dissertations and so on. The copy editor has to check that all these references have been correctly cited and that permissions, if any, have been taken. For example, if there is a book which has been published 10 years ago and it is being reprinted, there might be a sentence in it which says last year. Now, this kind of a mistake will have to be pointed out and the author is expected to correct it, but the copy editor can guide the author about these kind of errors which date a book. Now, the last unit of this block, unit 8, continues the issue of cross checking, and it cross checks editions, it cross checks for copyright permissions, and he cross checks for libellous matter. Now, editions can be editions of a newspaper or editions of a book. Editions of a newspaper may be the Delhi edition, the Calcutta edition, the Chennai edition and so on, and there might be certain pages which are composed, which are of local interest, and therefore they are composed in the city itself. But the national edition will have certain pages which will have international news and so on, which is common to all the editions of the newspaper. As far as checking editions of books are concerned, he will again have to cross check that the matter does not date the book. The copy editor also checks for copyright permissions. Certain books like the Ramayana, for example, or the Bible or Shakespeare are beyond the domain of copyright, but books which are popular or poems which are popular or plays which are popular may have their copyright extended even after the person or the creative writer who has produced that work has passed away. Now, libel can come under two heads. It can come under the head of intent, whether there is an intent to libel someone, to slander someone or to defame him, or it can come under the impact, whether the intention was to libel somebody or not, whether the intent was libellous or not, irrespective. In case the person has been offended or his reputation has been harmed, the publishing house stands to go in for a lot of court work, and therefore the copy editor will check that there is no libellous matter or there is no copyright matter which is going to cause trouble to the publisher and to the author both. Now, we shall come to the last block of this course. This block is titled The Process and Practice of Copy Editing. This block also has 4 units or 4 lessons. The first one deals with the mechanics of editing, the second one deals with reference tools, the third deals with style manuals and house style, and the fourth one deals with preparing copy for the press. Now, what do we mean by mechanics of editing? Mechanical editing is done to improve the readability. It is done to see that there are no slips, that there is no matter which has been missed, that there are no names which have been misspelled. These are very obvious kind of things which can be seen only visually. Then the copy editor also sees that the facts as given by the author are correct. If the author says that it is yet to be seen whether this agreement is signed, then the copy editor has to check whether the agreement has actually been signed, and the easiest way for him would be to check with the author, but he has to be watchful about these kind of mistakes. He has to also see that there are no legal problems, that there are no words that are quoted which are libellous, or there is no legal issue that can embroil the publisher. And of course, he has to see that the matter is comprehensive, that it is all there. He has to check for completeness, that all the tables, charts, graphs, illustrations, chapters, the matter in the front of the book, the matter at the end of the book, the bibliographies, the references, all of them have been given and the book is complete in itself. And finally, of course, he has to keep track of the time to see that the printer submits the proof as per the schedule given. Now, reference tools can be of two types. They can be primary reference tools and they can be secondary reference tools. Primary reference tools would be periodicals. He can check up periodicals which give the information that is required. He can have monographs. He can look at reports in case any information is to be checked up. He does not have to keep consulting with the author in case he has this kind of information in his library. Any publishing house or any newspaper worth the name has a very good up to date library attached to it. Then he can also check up with patents. He can check trade literature. He can check with dissertations which have not been published or which have been published, both. Apart from primary sources, then one of the tools that the copy editor can have are secondary sources. These are again dictionaries, thesauruses which give synonyms, dictionaries which give wordings, which give usages and so on. Now, let us go on to unit 11, which is style manuals and house style. Now, style manual is a book which gives detailed instructions about spellings, about placement, about margins and so on, which a particular publishing house has to conform to. And sometimes there are style manuals which you can get, the Chicago Manual of Style or the MLA style sheet, which has done this all for you, so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. But however, every publisher does have his own house style and he does not take in toto any style book that is already published. The house style of the publisher may be a very formal style, it may be a very informal style, or it might be a colloquial style. When you are working through a book as copy editor, it will be very helpful if you take a sheet of paper and keep noting down unusual spellings, unusual occurrences or any mistake that the author is repeatedly making, so that when you are working later on, or you may work on several books at the same time. So, when you are working on a particular book and you have devised this kind of a style for yourself, you can use it to keep referring to it. Now, the last one is preparing copy for the press. This is unit 12. When you are preparing copy for the press, when do you do it? You prepare copy for the press when the content editing has been done, the copy editing has been done, and then you give the press instructions. Now, a copy editor does not use any symbols like a proofreader. He uses a standard set of symbols. He marks copy in the body of the text itself and makes corrections in the body of the text itself, whereas a proofreader makes corrections in the margin closest to the place where the correction has to be made. Then he will indicate the font that has to be used, the size of the letters, the margins, the spacing and so on. He will indicate the illustrations, the sizing of the illustrations. Sometimes they may need to be reduced, sometimes the number of illustrations has to be reduced, because remember, every illustration or every picture that is used in a book enhances the price of the book, and it may overshoot the budget allocated to the book for printing and publishing. Then the copy editor also indicates for the press where the breaks in the text are going to be, where the chapter is going to start, where the chapter is going to close, whether the first letter of a chapter has to be a drop letter, whether it begins from the middle of the page and so on. And he gives all this page markup to the printer. Every single page is marked up, unless of course it is a very elementary kind of style in which only the chapters need to be indicated and there are no illustrations, they are just running text, in which he can give sample pages of the beginning of the book, the title page and the first page of each chapter. We have been talking repeatedly of book, but for newspapers, journals and book, the layouts are different. A newspaper will have the same layout edition after edition unless some earth shaking event has occurred in which the layout changes. A journal has a relatively fixed layout and it does not change from issue to issue, whereas a book changes depending on the content. And once the layout has been devised, then a dummy of the book is prepared and passed on to the press. At this point, the role of the copy editor ends and the role of the proofreader begins. This might be done by the same person, but that is the matter for the next transmission. Thank you.